Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Saturday Morning Comic Review. I'm your host, Dylan Wallace. Today, we got a great episode for you guys. If you can't hear it in my voice, I am a little bit sick, unfortunately. So I'm actually recording this on a Saturday morning, and we'll rush together to try to get it all out before 10 a.m. But yesterday, my voice was completely shot. I didn't have the energy to go ahead and record. And then this morning, the voice is still kind of shot, but I felt at least a little bit better. And I was like, either I record now and we just power through it, or to really be 100%, we're talking like Tuesday or Wednesday at that point. So I was like, you know what, let's just go ahead, get it posted. That way, stay consistent. And if people have to drop off because they can't handle the voice or they hear me hacking throughout, so be it. But just like getting the reps in of, putting together the actual podcast. So apologies for that if it's a struggle for you, but that is where we are at. But other than that, we're just going to have a standard issue for you. So we're going to review 10 books. Most of them, if not all of them, are from this week, with the exception of 2. And we'll have kind of our standard show. Talk about the pulls for this week, pulls for next week, review 10 books, and then also where the picks of the week are thus far. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So, of course, as always, I'd like to start off with what are the picks of the week. These are the top 5 listed out in League. So there is Batman issue number 7, 37% of the vote. Then Absolute Superman issue number 17, 17% of the vote. Then DCKO number 5 has 12% of the vote. Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, Rite of Spring number 6 has 3%. And then Marvel Team Up, some sort of edition, has 14% with 3%. That's issue number 14 with 3% of the vote. So of those books, I just have the 2. I have Absolute Superman number 17, which we'll review today, and then DCKO number 5. So 2 out of 5 is fine. Just always like to have something that's in the top 5 because then it makes me feel like I'm actually reading the relevant stuff. So with that, we got the pulls listed out here. Assume everything is going to be reviewed for today. I'll just call out the little tweaks here and there, but we have Absolute Flash issue number 12, Absolute Superman issue number 17, The Autumn Kingdom, The Wraithbound Queen issue number 2, The Avengers issue number 36, DCKO number 5, Moonstar number 1, a new series there, Nice House by the Sea issue 8. So I pulled 8, but I still haven't read 7. So I read 7, and that's what will be reviewed for today. Then X-Men number 26. And then lastly, it is the X-Men Annual for 2026. So those will be the 9 books that we pulled. Read all except for that one, Nice House by the Sea. Swap out 7 with 8. And then we have one that was a backlog as well. So let's go ahead and jump into the review, shall we? So for the review, I'll just call out all the books so you know the order. A lot of it is obviously going to be a repeat. So we're going to start off with DCKO issue number 5. Then Absolute Superman number 17. Absolute Flash issue number 12. Avengers number 36. X-Men 26. Moonstar number 1. The X-Men Annual 2026 edition. And then Iron Man issue number 2. So this is one that was a backlog. Then The Autumn Kingdom, The Wraithbound Queen, issue number 2. And then Nice House by the Sea, issue number 7. So we'll go in that order in case you want to jump around and, listen to a particular book that you're interested in. But we'll go ahead and start off with DCKO, issue number 5, which is the conclusion to this event. As a reminder, if this is your first time tuning in, first off, welcome. I appreciate it. The way that this review is going to work is I do spoil the book, so just keep that in mind, but I'll try to catch you up on what has happened thus far. We'll talk about the book itself. I'll show off the artwork for anyone that is watching on the video on YouTube, and then I'll talk about my rating on League, the League rating as well, and then I will let you know whether or not this is a good one to jump into. So that tends to be the format. So for DCKO issue number 5, this is the conclusion to this event, the KO event, if you will. It is a grand tournament between both heroes and villains to become the Omega King. The winner of that is then going to fight Darkseid, really for the fate of the universe. So it is Lex Luthor who's won it, and now he has to challenge Darkseid. But then we get a little flashback to Superman, and throughout it's been like this one scene of Clark, Bruce, Diana. They're playing a board game. I think Lois is there too when Darkseid attacks, and it comes and repeats throughout this series. And so rather than this time everyone going out to fight, Superman has the realization that this isn't real. It's some sort of illusion. And he calls out, I know you're here. And then turns around and we flip to it, and it's the timeless Doomsday that we've seen. I think it was in Justice League Unlimited, but certainly in all the Darkseid stuff leading up to this event. So somehow this timeless, who is like, I guess the master of the timeline, if you will, was able to, I guess, save an instance of Superman, if you will, and can resurrect him. And he's basically like, Superman, I need you to see this and to witness this, because I need you to do what it takes in order to defeat Darkseid. Are you willing to do that? And so Superman, in the actual real world, if you will, is dead. So he realizes that this is the only opportunity that he has. So he says yes, and says yes that he'll win. So Doomsday sacrifices himself, resurrects Superman. Superman then immediately eviscerates Lex Luthor. So now it's actually truly Superman versus Darkseid. And so these two have this enormous grand battle all across the timeline. And the way that the battle kind of works is it's everywhere as far as a location, but it's across the spectrum of time. So Darkseid has conquered all the future and most of the present, and Superman is just working his way towards the past. So he keeps going further and further back in time to the point of the origin of the universe, the Big Bang. So Darkseid keeps fighting and working his way towards the Big Bang, and then boom, Superman's like basically cornered. And then Superman fights back, and he's able to push Darkseid all the way up to the present. And then, rather than destroying him and like setting him into the distant future and I guess basically eradicating him, by doing that, he would be the only being left in the universe. And of course, Superman's like, I can't do that. I have to have it so all the other humans, superheroes, planets, the rest of the universe still has life. So rather than completely destroying Darkseid, he just effectively delays and pushes Darkseid far enough into the future to where they're not going to have to deal with him for like several months and years. But that then allows everyone else to come back and be in the present. So Superman saves the day, delays Darkseid, but doesn't completely destroy him. And that's basically it. That is the end of the event. From here, a bunch of heroes are going to be doing a whole bunch of different things as far as restoration, investigating some random anomalies, things along those lines. The art in this is awesome. Like the battle scenes that they have here is pretty cool. But the story itself is just like, we got to wrap this up some way somehow. And this is the way that they ended up figuring out how to do it. As far as the review itself, I gave it a 4. League gave it a 3.9. I don't know how else they really would have wrapped this up where it would have made any sense. Not that this makes a complete amount of sense either. So I'm good with it. Not really the time to jump in for obvious reasons because it is the end. Anything moving forward, however, in DC is the time to jump in because this is now starting Act 2 of All In. So this is the very final finale of Act 1 of All In of anything that you've been reading. And then moving forward, I'm pretty sure next week is going to be the start of Act 2. So if you see something that's interesting, even if it's already in the middle of its run, go ahead and pick it up because it's the start of like a whole new event or new phase of the DC universe. So with that, let's go ahead, show off some of the artwork here. See, as you can see, like very action focused, right? We have Darkseid basically destroying the planet. And this is the scene where Superman realizes like, this isn't real. And sure enough, Doomsday reveals himself and it's like, I need you to witness this because you're going to have to do things that you don't want to do in order to defeat him. And sure enough, he accepts the offer, he returns, and here's where they're fighting throughout space and time. To get to the origin of the Big Bang, Superman starts to repel him back and just pushes him far enough into the future where all the heroes can return and remain, but Darkseid is not completely defeated at this time. So yeah, now it's effectively kind of wrapping everything up and then showing what different heroes are going to be doing moving forward. And that goes like for a whole bunch of different DC books, not just like the Justice League. So yeah, pretty good book overall. Towards the end, Darkseid here, still plotting, still doing stuff. He's saying his absolute universe still continues. So that will do exactly that, continue. And then we have DC goes to the next level. So we go from All In to next level, which is basically the next phase of All In, as you can see from here. So yeah, good book, good event. Not, I don't know if it'll be like super memorable as far as like, you know, how history is going to look at DCKO. I think it was a really cool concept to start. And then overall, maybe tapered off a little bit. So I'd be curious if, like, you know, years later, am I still talking about KO the way that people still talk about Krakoa, right? So we'll see. But yeah, that's DCKO issue number 5. Again, I gave it a 4. League gave it a 3.9. Then we have Absolute Batman issue number 17. And I won't even bury the lead for this one. This is the comic of the week. So good. I gave it a 4.5. League gave it a 4.4. And as you saw, one of the picks of the week as well. I enjoyed this book a lot. So we have Superman and we have Hawkman. They're trying to fight this beast in the middle of Metropolis. And here's where we basically see the differences between Superman and Hawkman. So Superman is our traditional Superman, doing everything that he can to preserve life while trying to get rid of this beast. But the way that this monster works, it's basically absorbing everyone and it's forcing nightmares onto them, so everyone's adrenaline is spiking and the monster is like feeding on people's energy and adrenaline. And so Hawkman's like, screw it, we just gotta destroy it, but obviously it's gonna be a lot of collateral damage and kill a whole bunch of folks. And he's like, I don't care, like, we're just gotta get rid of it, we gotta do what we gotta do. Of course, Superman sees it differently. Lois gets caught up in this monster as well. He hears her, Superman that is, goes up to Lois and is able to pull her out of like the tentacles of this thing. But Lois says, it wasn't actually you pulling me out, the thing released me. And it released me because I heard your voice, I was calm, I immediately knew you were going to save me. So the adrenaline stopped spiking, it was no longer pleasurable to this beast to like try to absorb her, right? So it just released her. So they're like, okay, we have to basically do that same thing for the millions of people that this thing just absorbed. How do we get them to calm down? And what Superman does is like, okay, I'll just go in, I'll be absorbed myself, link my mind with all these different people, and then talk to them. And so Hawkman's like, screw that, I'm just going in. He gets absorbed by it, doesn't work. So Superman then goes in. He's talking to Hawkman, but as he's talking to Hawkman, it's effectively talking to everyone else. All the humans, they recognize Superman. They do calm down, and that does release everyone. Hawkman comes to the realization of like, wow, there is a different way to like do this moving forward. But secretly, he's still working with Lazarus Corp. He's working with Talia. So that creature shrinks down to a particular size. Superman's able to enclose it, and he's going to put it in his fortress to where he plans to nurse it back up and then maybe send it back to its original homeworld. Meanwhile, B-plot is while this is all taking place, Talia sent this out because she's trying to rescue her father, Ra's al Ghul, who's in prison. So when Talia shows up to prison, she's like, I'm here to break you out. Ra's al Ghul is completely broken from all those letters that Superman kept reading of all the destruction and the horrible, terrible things that people wrote about Ra's al Ghul. He's like defeated. He's a shell of the man that he was before. And so at first he refuses, and then finally he does leave with Talia. So we'll see how that all shakes out in the end. And then finally at the very, very end, super dark and twisted, and probably the most effed up part of the whole comic, Brainiac, remember, was trying to get to Lex Luthor, and this Lex Luthor in the Absolute Universe is just a normal family man dude living out in the burbs and was having some sort of party or celebration. So a bunch of friends and family are there, and Brainiac is like, this is unacceptable, you have way more potential than this. So he locks up or ties down Lex Luthor and forces Lex to watch Brainiac completely slaughter his entire family in this backyard. And there's just blood and bodies all over the place. And that's the conclusion and the cliffhanger for the book. Insane. I was like, dude, if this is Marvel, for this one panel alone, this should be Redbound. It was crazy. So yeah, that was the story. Pretty good. I enjoyed it. Could you jump into this one? You should probably start with issue 16, maybe even 15. 16 would be fine. But here you're like in the middle of the action, and yeah, you've been better off if you started at the last issue. But if you jumped into this one, you'd be fine too. I think Absolute Superman is still crushing it. I look forward to it every single time that it is on. Here is the end towards with Brainiac, and like, look, he's like just covered in blood, and he's like, yeah, that should do it. And then boom, on this page here, it's just his whole family completely slaughtered. Like, oh my gosh, crazy, crazy, crazy stuff. So yeah, Absolute Superman issue number 17. Again, I gave it a 4.5. League gave it a 4.4. And then next up here is going to be Absolute Flash issue number 12. Super simplistic for this one. So I gave it a 3.5. League gave it a 3.6. Remember, this is the last one too. So in the end, it is...
Yeah, no thanks.
No thanks for me. So this will be the last one that I pulled up for the Flash. I think I did that, Green Lantern, and I think that was it. Just those two. I think I still have everything else. But for the Flash here, he's fighting Dr. Thawne's grandfather who turned into that monster. So it's just a fight scene going back and forth. Fight spills out from the laboratory into like this plain area that's next to the lab. Wally, his father, the Flash's father, is there as well. And he goes to sacrifice himself. And I don't know if he's holding a device or something, but he pushes Dr. Thawne, this monster, into this like portal that sends him into Still Point, which is where... think of like nowhere, or think of like just time doesn't exist there. It's a pocket dimension, pocket portal, and they go through the portal and it closes up and they're gone. And so Wally's like, okay, we got to find him. We got to go get him. The machines and everything from the lab are destroyed. Like, we can rebuild this, right? One person's like, I could read into it and I could see, through the portal, but without the machines, it's broken. And then no one else wants to help because they're like, we're paid mercenaries. Like, we're not doing this. So Wally goes running off until finally he breaks down and then just has to deal with the emotion that he lost his father. And that's basically the end. You don't really have a cliffhanger beyond that. So this is effectively the conclusion here of this arc. And then issue 13 is going to be the one to jump in. So that actually feels pretty good that this is my, dropping off point, wrapping up the story here. But overall, like, that was it. It's just the fight, the sacrifice, and that's basically it. So, not the greatest in the world, and I would not recommend it at this point, but let's go ahead and show off some of the artwork so you can take a look there. Art is good, but the story is like almost too simplistic, unfortunately. So that does affect it. However, Absolute Universe in general is cool, but they're not all going to be bangers, so that's fine. That's why we dropped it. Don't fully regret everything, but it is what it is. So, yeah, that's Absolute Flash, issue number 12. Again, I gave it a 3.5. League gave it a 3.6. Then the Avengers. So we're going to the world of Marvel. Issue number 36 is the finale. This is the conclusion of this run from... what's his face? Yeah, Jed McKay. And I gave this one a 4. Lee gave it a 3.6. I was like, it's not that bad. But it is just a wrap up of not even a recap of everything that's happened. It's just, where are we going from here? So, Captain Marvel, Carol, is the lead of the Avengers, and she's basically saying, I'm going to hang it up, and we're going to pass the torch to someone else. And she's going to each one of the heroes, explaining why, and, she just feels it's the right time, basically. And each one of them agrees, and they're like, we saw this time coming, thank you for all you've done. So she goes to each and every single one of the heroes, from Wanda to Vision to Storm to Iron Man, you name it. And at the end, Tony's like, okay, let's go ahead and cast our votes to decide who's the next Avenger going to be, or, lead of the Avenger, and then the roster that goes with it as well. But unfortunately, they just leave it at the cliffhanger. We will now have to just wait until the next Avengers picks up, which I think is going to be over the summer in June. Don't hold me to that, but I think that's what it is. So yeah, that's it as far as the story, just wrapping things up. The one other thing is Kang. He's in prison, in like some crazy intergalactic prison. At first it looks like he's going to give up and just get beaten up by a whole bunch of prisoners, and that's going to be the end of his life. But he turns it around. He's like, you know what? Screw it. I thought that was the route. Clearly it's not. I'm still alive, though. I'm still the conqueror. I'm going to find a different way. And then he starts beating the crap out of all the prisoners. And now it looks like he's in charge now. So he's still a threat. Still out there. Show off the artwork here so you can take a look. Each panel is basically that conversation. So Carol with the Black Panther. Carol talking to Wanda. Storm. Captain America. Vision. So on and so forth. And so, yeah, they basically are like, all right, cool. We get it. We had a good run. Thanks for the help and the support. Twilight Council and the Camelot, the ship, they leave as well. They're like, we'll just do good out in the universe. And then at the end here, Kang is like, I'm still on top. So that's the Avengers. Not the time to jump in, obviously. I enjoyed it overall. I think it'd be fine to jump into. I think the way that they crossed over to the different Marvel events that took place from like Blood Hunt, I thought it went well. I enjoyed the Avengers a lot. Looked forward to it each and every time. There were a couple times I was like, maybe I'll drop, but honestly, pretty consistent. And so, fond memories of it. And I'd recommend this run from Jed McKay. So yeah, Avengers issue number 36. I gave it a 4. League gave it a 3.6. Now to the X-Men, we're going to go with issue number 26. I gave this one a 4. League gave it a 3.9. It's definitely between a 3.5 and a 4 for this. So we have the group kind of splitting up at this point. So Psylocke finds out that one of her accomplices is caught robbing a bank, and so she wants to investigate that because she's like, this kind of feels out of character. So she leaves. Then we have really the rest of the core group. They're trying to investigate the sheriff is missing, and they head to, I guess, the police station. They find some blood. They're like, okay, how can we track her down? They find her signature. It's out on a cargo ship out in the bay. So they go and they check it out. It looks completely abandoned. And as they investigate, they find her tied up to a chair, but they assume it's a trap. And sure enough, it is. And it is a trap of like a makeshift danger room. And it looks like it's Dr. Danger who is working in tandem with Crimson Commando. So remember, Crimson Commando is like in charge of, I think it's ONE, which is like the organization that basically is trying to gaslight the X-Men into looking worse than they are. So their whole thing is like, how do we PR spin all this stuff to make it look like the X-Men are almost like ICE in a way, but like the horrible, horrible, horrible negative things that have been happening with ICE, that's what they're trying to spin them into. Of like, yeah, look, see, they're going to go after a whole bunch of mutants as well. And the X-Men are like, whoa, no, we're not. We're not doing any of that stuff that you're claiming that we're doing. But an event will happen, and then they'll just spin it a particular way. You can tell that it is very much an ICE conversation is what X-Men are basically talking about here. But anyways, yeah. So that's kind of the broader thing. But right now, they're trapped by Dr. Danger. And then one final thing, like the C plot, if you will. Glob, he's out in the town. He's selling a whole bunch of veggies and stuff. And then someone comes up to him and asks if he is a mutant, and he makes a joke about it, but he's not looking at him. He's like, yeah, of course I'm a mutant. And then you turn the panel, he's like, that's all I needed to hear. And there's a gun pointed, and then it just pulls out the scene, and then at the bottom says blam, blam, blam. So we assume Glob has been shot. So we'll see. That is the cliffhanger there. So a good issue, but it's kind of like, all right, here we go again. Maybe not the most interesting way to kick off a new series, but this would be a good one to jump into. No doubt about it. It is technically a part 1 as well, but we'll just have to see where it all ends up going. So yeah, that's X-Men issue number 26. I gave it a 4. League gave it a 3.9. Show off some of the artwork. Artwork's fine. Nothing special here. You don't really have a lot of fight scenes in this one. So it's mostly just conversation pieces than anything, which is fine. I don't necessarily need everything to be super actiony over the top, but here's where they're investigating that ship, and then these purpley tentacles start to attack, and it's Dr. Danger who's controlling all of that, and then Glob, where he looks to be shot at the end. So we'll see how that all goes. And then lastly, just the reveal that Dr. Danger and Crimson Commando are working together. So yeah, again, X-Men issue number 26. Again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.9. Then we have Moonstar. So Moonstar, issue number 1. I gave this one a 4. Lee gave it a 3.7. I'd say for sure in between a 4 and a 3.5. It's amazing. As I'm like, I never read as a kid, right? Other than the things that, you forced to in school, this, that, and the other, but I never read for leisure. And so now, as I'm reading a whole bunch of comics, it is amazing that you just start to pick up on writing styles. And so I'm reading this as like, this feels like exactly like the writer of Magic. And then sure enough, I'm like, yes, from the writer of Magic, it is Ashley Allen. It's like so funny how you can start to pick up on that almost immediately after you start doing it for a while. So with that, it's very wordy and not in a good way. I wish it would be a more show don't tell. And the setup here is Moonstar, who was working with Magic, so it's kind of a natural fit to go from that project to this one. She is a bit on her own, and she is approached by 2 people that were in an organization that she was in, and they're like, hey, Moonstar, there's a sword out there. It's consuming a whole bunch of souls, and we need you to help and support. So this sword comes from Asgard, and there's this knight that's like bound to the sword, and they're like working together. And if you're familiar with World of Warcraft at all, it's very similar to like the Lich King and his sword Frostmourne, where it's just consuming souls. So Moonstar and these 2 from the organization, they go and they find where he is, and sure enough, he's like consumed a whole bunch of souls in this small town. So they're trying to stop him as best as they can, and it seems like they have the upper hand until they don't, and they're trying to use magic defenses in order to escape. But one of them ends up sacrificing themselves. That allows Moonstar and the other to escape and then kind of create a plan from here. So it's a dangerous situation. They got to figure out how to stop this guy, how to stop this soul, and I'm sure a whole bunch of Asgardians are going to be involved in the story as well. So cool setup, cool premise, but the writing style irks me a little bit. Like, I'll show you. And if you remember my Magic reviews, if you've been listening for that long, it was a similar criticism. So I ended up dropping Magic, so I may end up dropping this too. We'll see. But like, look at how much text is here, and it's saying a whole bunch of nothing, unfortunately. Like, it is just really nonstop, every single page. And you get to a certain point where I was like, oh, okay, like maybe they front loaded it, and then it's going to be a bunch of action on the back end. Nope, it just kind of keeps going. So yeah, this, I guess, is just Ashley's style. And for me, it worked a little bit for Magic until it stopped. So it's a cool premise here. We'll just see if it stays consistent for me moving forward. So yeah, Moonstar issue number 1. Again, I gave it a 4. League gave it a 3.7. Then, and obviously with the number 1, it's a great time to go ahead and jump into it. So next up here is going to be the X-Men Annual, the 2026 edition. I was surprised at how bad Lee rated this one. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.4. I thought it was a totally fine annual. Now, it's always just a one-shot, basically. So it's just a story that takes place. It's a good time to go and read it in the sense of, like, it's not affecting the story. It's usually the same team that put it together for the ongoing series, and it's a good point to like just get a sample and a taste of what to expect from the X-Men project kind of moving forward. So I thought that was fine. Now the thing here is it actually deals more with the uncanny X-Men than it does, Scott and the crew up in Alaska. So Jean Grey, she comes back from space. She's got these spidey senses tingling that something terrible is about to happen. And sure enough, this monster appears out of nowhere. They start fighting it, and what they come to realize is that it's actually this guy who is a mutant, and he can make his, whatever he imagines, can bring it to life. But the problem is like he can't draw it. Like, he's terrible at drawing. So he hires a bunch of writers who then he, I guess, kind of captures, puts together on this helmet. So he has the power to bring it to life, but the others have to like draw it. So that's what they're fighting. And when they fight it, Jean Grey and Logan, they go through the portal that it came out of. And so, like, they're working through, like, this in-between world. And that portal then brings them to where this guy is in this room. The writers are like, screw this. They start to leave. And we find out that this guy was a mutant. He was part of, the X-Men family in the mansion. And he basically left and was kicked out because he felt lesser than. And the X-Men didn't do a good job of supporting him then. So they go and they bring him all the way back to the place where the Uncanny X-Men are. And he basically apologizes and says, like, I'll do better. And then Jean is like, well, we need to apologize too because we basically failed you. And so I don't know if this guy now is going to be part of the Uncanny X-Men moving forward or if it truly is just a one-shot of an issue. Art on that side of the house, really, really good. I did enjoy that a lot as we were kind of going through this portal. So we got Jean Grey as like kind of this crazy mix of the Phoenix and like her intergalactic suit where she has like a whole bunch of stars, but it's like black. It looks so cool. And then this portal monster that is fighting as they like go through the portal. I think like the detail on this is a step above than what you typically see for Marvel and then the X-Men as of recently. So kudos to the art team on that. Here's where they're like trying to fight through to get to the other side. They're able to, and when they do, that's when they pull them back into the Uncanny X-Men side of everything as well. So here are the writers, and like, screw this, let's leave. And then they take care of the creation. You kind of create like this Spider-Man looking thing that destroys his original creation and looks like he's going to be part of the team in the end. So yeah, that's the annual. Again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.4. I can't really see how Lee went so much lower on this. I was like, if you don't like it, that's one thing. But to go that low, that one has me a little confused and a bit of a head scratcher. But either way, that is X-Men, the annual. Again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.4. And then we have one of our backlogs here, Iron Man, issue number 2. So this one, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.9. Bunch of 3.9s for this week is what I'm noticing. This one here is just continuing the build up the background story. So Iron Man, or Tony Stark, is the MCU version, right? Playboy, billionaire, super cocky, braggadocious, all that stuff. He has this contest or award basically for folks that are brilliant in whatever kind of field. And there's like 8 or 10 finalists that were going to win this award. And Madame Mask wants to recreate a version of Tony Stark, but realizes kind of have to put that individual through the same circumstance as Tony Stark did to truly see if they can become Tony Stark. So he was in the cave, built the Iron Man suit, obviously are his origins here. They want to do the same thing, but with a different genius is what they want to put together. So what Madame Mask does is, from that contest, takes all those 8 competitors and is like going to set up this tournament for them. But it's not a tournament in the sense that they can voluntarily do it. They have to. They are prisoners forced to go through this. So Tony and Madame Mask had a romantic past as well. So Tony is like trying to figure out, where are these contestants that had it as finalists. And so he's going all around the world, and he ends up in Madripoor. And there he finds MODOK, and he thinks that MODOK knows where Madame Mask has him, but turns out MODOK is being attacked as well. And the cliffhanger is basically both Iron Man and MODOK have to now face off whoever is trying to get towards MODOK. So that is the issue. A lot of it is still just like continuing to set up the story. But we basically have it at this point of like, okay, yes, track down where these people are. And then from there, once we have their location, trying to free them. And then I would imagine also trying to prevent someone else from becoming an iteration of Tony Stark and then just not knowing, is it going to be for good or for evil? How is Madame Mask going to manipulate that person? Things along those lines. So yeah, we'll see how that all ends up going. Here they are in Madripoor. MODOK is in some sort of spa, and Iron Man is like, dude, you gotta help me. It's like, help you? I'm under attack. And Iron Man and MODOK are now going to be forced, I guess, kind of to team up together until they can track down where Madame Mask has those prisoners kept. So that's Iron Man issue number 2. Again, I gave it a 4. League gave it a 3.9. And then we have the Autumn Kingdom, the Wraith Queen issue number 2. I gave this one a 4. League gave it a 4 as well.
Nailed it. I know. Thank you. Moving on.
So for this issue, this is very light on the text. Very much show don't tell. I wanted a little more text in here just to feel like it was worth spending $5. But the story is pretty good. What we have are two sisters. They have this sword. As dangers around them, the sword gets much lighter, and they basically take on the characteristics of this fable-like character. It's like fairy tale character. And they're fighting their way in, I guess it's a bunch of demons in this pit. And they got their mother out in the first volume. And now in this next volume of the Wraithbound Queen, they're trying to get their father out. And so one sister, her name is Winter, is captured. And then the other sister is trying to, rescue her. And so we start off this issue where it looks like the sister with the sword is able to rescue Winter, but she's like knocked off, and then Winter is then carried away, and now they're separated. And so Winter is brought to the ruler of this realm, who says it's going to sacrifice her, and she's like trying to fight it, of course. So being like, why are you doing this? And I'm just here to find my father. And when she says that, the ruler of this realm was like, well, we can provide everything that you need here. It shows this vision of her father, but it's not really him. It's like a weird little construct that looks like her father, but it's not. And so she rejects that, and it looks like she's going to be sacrificed. Meanwhile, the other sister with the sword, who's trying to find her way, she sees where she's at, or directionally knows, because the sword is the indicator as it gets lighter or heavier. So she's heading towards that way, and then she starts to see a construct as well, but she doesn't know exactly what it is. Just us as the reader know. And so the construct starts getting closer, and it doesn't really have a form. And then at the very end, it takes a form, and it takes a form of this fairy tale character that we've been seeing throughout like these past 7 issues. Because the first, 6 issues, sorry, because the first part was 4, and now this is 1 and 2 here, so 6 in total. And her name is Elstriel, I think, something like that. But yeah, so she like shows up as the vision of herself, right next to the girl with the sword. So we'll see where it all leads from there. But pretty cool reveal. I'm enjoying it, but again, it does need a little bit more text. And you'll see as I flip through the artwork here of like, it is just storytelling by art. Like boom, bunch of onomatopoeia. Okay, that's fine. And then just a few text bubbles there. Just a few on these pages as well. Flipping here, almost nothing at all. And then finally, like, okay, some text here. This is who the ruler of the realm is, who talks about the sacrifice. This gets into some of the fairy tale and describing what happened. What we assume is in the way in the past, but not 100% sure. More of the conversation about your father, and so we can provide everything for you. Girl with the sword working towards finding her sister, and then the construct, boom, shows up as Elstriel. I think that's how you pronounce it. So yeah, cool issue. Looking forward to the next one. That is the Autumn Kingdom, the Wraith Queen, issue number 2. Again, I gave it a 4. League gave it a 4 as well. And then lastly, it's going to be Nice House by the Sea, issue number 7. So 8 came out this week, but I'm reading through 7. This one, I gave it a 4.5. League gave it a 4.3. This is borderline the comic of the week as well, because it's truly starting to hit the fan in this one. So remember, we have 2 houses. The world is completely destroyed. These aliens have captured a bunch of humans. They have them in these biomes, and we don't really know what they're trying to do with them. Maybe create like the perfect version of humans. They all have different characteristics. One is controlled by the alien Walter. The other's biome is controlled by the alien Max. They found out about each other and were able to like go between their different biomes. The people in Max's biome, which we'll call the sea because they're the nice house by the sea, versus the people in Walter's biome, which is the lake folks, because they're in the nice house on the lake. The sea folks are actually the best in the world at what they do. So they are truly the best as far as like Nobel Prize winning, Oscar winning, Emmy winning, like whatever it is in their field, they are the best of the best. Whereas in Walter's biome, the lake folks, they're just his friends. So, it's a different caliber of folks. So the sea folks, they start discussing, and they're like, hey, if they have multiple biomes, this is probably some sort of contest where only one biome is going to win. We got to take them out. And so that's what the sea folks plan to do. And so the lake folks, it's Reg in particular, who was one of Walter's oldest friends and helped him construct this whole thing as far as like aesthetically. He starts crossing over back over to the sea along with, I think Rachel is who it is. And when they get there, they don't find anyone except they find Oliver. So Oliver on the sea house side was one of Walter's friends as well. He ends up in Max's house by becoming one of the best in the world at his own thing, but he knows both of them. He knows what's going on. He was tortured and captured because the sea people started to realize, like, oh, you know more than what you're leading. Tell us what's happening. Tell us how we can get to the other side. So they find Oliver. They break him out of whatever cell that he's in. And Oliver lets him know, like, the sea people are going to kill you. And then you flip to the next page, and sure enough, they've already made their way over to the lake house biome, and all the different people from the sea house are starting to, like, kill the people in the lake house. So, yeah, that is what's going on. Shit's hitting the fan. It's getting real bad. And I don't know how everyone is going to survive coming out of this. Now, the biggest thing, of course, is everyone is technically immortal. And one of the guys in the sea house has this device where he's able to like change a whole bunch of, aspects of people. Like they can be younger and they can change their body shape and type and all that stuff. And now he has access to the lake house device. It's a little similar in its function. So now we imagine he's going to turn them off as far as being immortal as well. But that wasn't 100% revealed. It's just look towards the end here of like he's this grotesque, like multiple arms coming out of him looking thing. It was a crazy story. So yeah, I love every time this book comes out. Can't wait to read issue number 8 at this point, but that's Nice House by the Sea, issue number 7. Again, I gave it a 4.5. League gave it a 4.3. Definitely check it out. Not the time to jump in. You should really read Nice House on the Lake before you read Nice House by the Sea. So Nice House on the Lake is a 12-part series, and I imagine Nice House by the Sea will be a 12-part series as well. So with that is it for the reviews, folks. Let's go ahead and recap it real quick for you all. First, we had DCKO issue number 5, and that is the conclusion of the KO event. Absolute Superman issue number 17. I guess just Hawkman realizing there are other ways to go about this, and Ra's al Ghul is freed. Absolute Flash issue number 12. The last for me. Dr. Thawne was taken care of, but Wally's father sacrifices himself. The Avengers issue number 36 is the finale, and Captain Marvel is going to relinquish her power as the head of the Avengers. X-Men issue number 26. The X-Men are now captured by Dr. Danger, who's working with the Crimson Commando. Moonstar number 1 has to stop this weird Asgardian sword and knight who's stealing people's souls. Then we had X-Men the Annual, Jean Grey story, trying to stop this new mutant. Iron Man issue number 2. Iron Man now trying to work with MODOK to find where Madame Mask has the prisoners kept. The Autumn Kingdom, Wraithbound Queen issue number 2. Winter is captured, but the other sister with the sword runs into Elthriel. And the Nice House by the Sea issue number 7. The Sea folks are now trying to kill the Lake folks. So that's it. Those are the books. That is all for the review section of the show. So with that, let's go into the polls for next week. Locked and loaded with a small amount. Just 6 books here. So we have Absolute Batman issue number 18. Hell yeah. Then Absolute Green Lantern issue number 12. That'll be the last one for me for Absolute Green Lantern. DC Cross AEW number 2. First one was not good. The only reason I'm picking up this one is because I am a huge wrestling fan, and specifically AEW. So I wouldn't recommend that book based on the first one. I'd imagine the second one is going to be more of the same, so just kind of bear that in mind. The Seasons, issue number 9. We had quite a long break for the season, so good to have that one back. Then Tigress Island, number 1. It's a brand new series I'm going to be jumping into. Looks pretty cool from the previews. And then lastly, Transformers issue number 30. So those will be the 6. As far as this week, probably going to do an Omega, which I think is truly just going to be 100% backlogs. And then we'll start reading through some stuff. And we'll hopefully be able to review all 6 of these books, plus a couple of extras for next Saturday. That's what the goal is going to be there. So yeah, I think with that is going to be a show. So thanks for tuning in, folks. I do appreciate it. If you want to check out the show on social media, check out the social media channels in the description below. And then if you want to support the show monetarily, there is a URL in the description, buymeacoffee.com/SaturdayMorningReview. All proceeds will basically go towards comics. Anything you guys could chip in would be greatly appreciated. So yeah, we'll go ahead. We'll close it out. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you guys in the next one.
Go, 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 go.
This has been a DMW production. Thanks for stopping by.